question, and it's about scammers. Thailand came out and said that scammers should receive the death penalty. So much for stopping the war and violence. I cannot. A new Miss Grand International has been crowned for 2025, and we just have to talk about everything that happened in the show because there were definitely some questionable moments, to say the least, at Miss Grand International this year, not to mention some very poignant and important moments as well. And of course, in grand fashion, there was also a lot of excitement. The Miss Grand intros are always pure drama with special focus on the reigning queen. Of course, I do love the production quality and entertainment value that Miss Grand International always offers. What I don't understand, however, is that the background of this year's Miss Grand International introduction was so very cool toned, and the vibes were sort of 2000s tech digital vibes, and the actual outfits that the girls were wearing were so feminine and gold and flowy. I just felt like there was a definite mismatch between the actual outfits that the women were wearing on stage and the stage that they were wearing them on. The girls introduced themselves in the regular fashion, of course announcing their country name into the mics and then having a little runway moment. I do like how the stage lights up with the country's flags one by one as they're doing their introductory walks. And of course, Ghana delivered her country's name in song to us. Such a treat, you know, a queen of the people. She truly knows how to please us and what we want. Sadly, when Japan came on, Japan delivered no cartwheels or backflips during intro. I reckon it's not worth the risk of injury, so that's fair enough. Myanmar also had an interesting moment during introductions. I wouldn't call it singing per se. I think it would be more apt to describe it as a mating call of some sort of exotic animal somewhere. Panama, however, did give our Ghanaian queen a run for her money when it came to singing her intro. Panama! Our girl Peru was still wearing knee protection for her injury that she sustained early in the competition, but at least now she was wearing heels instead of sneakers on stage. This intro outfit looked so good on South Africa, but why did I peep her wearing some sort of ankle brace? There were way too many lower body injuries at Miss Grand this year. I'm so confused because the production team always shows this woman with the title card of Taiwan, but she continuously has introduced herself as Chinese Taipei, so which is it? Again, I love how the reigning queen is always a central part of the intro scene. So after intros, they hinted that they would be announcing the top 20, but first they announced the women who won the national costume competition. Now, these women did not automatically place in the top 20. They just won the national costume competition, and there were 3 of them. So it was Brazil, which I thought was well deserved because she had this amazing Formula 1 costume. India, I don't think that this was as well deserved, honestly, because I think that she had more of a set. Someone even called it a float, which I think is very inappropriate. It's not necessarily a costume that you can wear, it's just a big thing that she was pushing around. And then Thailand won the national costume competition as well. Her performance was great during national costume, I won't deny that, but I definitely think that the UK deserved to be one of the 3 winners for national costume. I mean, her costume had mechanical birds flapping their wings. It was like a fish and chips sort of costume, and the newspaper that the fish and chips was, you know, held in is like a custom sort of newspaper. If you look at the details, it's all about Miss Grand. So I think that that sort of attention to detail deserved praise, but that's just me. So for the top 20, the country's Power of the Year awards went to the Philippines, and that gained her automatic entry into the top 20. The 2 talent winners also gained automatic entry into the top 20, and that was Ghana, of course, the amazing vocalist, and then Japan, the flip queen. queen, which I thought was well deserved for talent. The UK also got into the top 20, which I was very pleased about because you guys know I adore her. She has put in the work and dedication. Guatemala got in. She is a big fan fave and so beautiful. Dominican Republic, also a favorite of mine. Czech Republic, who was much loved by the fans. Martinique, whom I adored. Indonesia, who I have such a soft spot for. France, who was not actually on my list. Zambia, who also didn't make my list. Paraguay, who was another unforeseen one. And also when it came to Paraguay, the wrong contestant actually stepped forward first. And then it was Laos, who I didn't see coming either. Brazil, who was not on my list, but I felt like she deserved to place anyway. Tanzania, who was a big fave of mine. She is so amazing. Thailand, of course, very well deserved. Mexico, who I think also deserved the placement. Venezuela, of course, who is super popular with fans. Belgium, who was, to be honest, a placement that definitely left some question marks for me. And then lastly, Spain. But it wasn't lastly Spain because, plot twist, it was actually a top 22 for some reason. Who knows what the reason was. So USA was one of the final two girls. She wasn't on my list, but then Ecuador made it, whom I was so glad that she made it because she was such a sentimental favorite of mine. The girls who did not end up making it into the top 20 were South Africa, Netherlands, Colombia, India, Canada and Peru. These are the women who I really thought deserved a placement in the top 20, but alas, they unfortunately did not make it, which is always sad because, you know, South Africa is my birth country and you always want to see your birth countries or the countries that you are connected to in some way succeed, but unfortunately she did not, and neither did the rest of my favorites who didn't make the top 20. So overall I got 14 out of 22 of the top 20 correctly. To be fair to myself, my original list only had 20 candidates, so what grade would we give that? I would say it's pretty good, you know, D's get degrees, but I was definitely so sad for Peru in particular. She has showed such grace and poise and positivity throughout her whole journey. She did injure her leg pretty severely at the beginning of her journey at Miss Grand International, and where a lot of girls would have given up, you know, packed it up and gone home, she persevered. She was in a wheelchair for a while. The girl is literally Supergirl. I think I would have definitely loved to see her in the top 20 just because she has this resilience in the face of adversity that is so inspiring. For the swimsuit competition, the top 22 battled it out, starting with Belgium. Honestly, I think that she was surprisingly good. I don't know how she slipped through my cracks during, you know, all of the preliminary activities, and again they're displaying age, height and measurements on the side instead of something useful like advocacy. Brazil came up and obviously her face is just so enchanting. For the Czech Republic, she didn't do the smoothest turns, but you know, how physically stunning is she? With the Dominican Republic, you guys know I love her sass and confidence. She also did not have the smoothest turn at first. Ecuador, guys, I adore this girl. She is so cute. She is so extra and made for the grand stage. France came up. She's so pretty. It didn't seem like she knew what to do with her hands though. Ghana, guys, how sassy, how gorgeous. She definitely brought it. Guatemala came up, and I just think that Guatemala has such a nice rhythmic walk to her. Indonesia, I don't love what she is doing with the cape. It seems like a lazy cop-out in order to do absolutely nothing with the cape. Japan came and she actually did a flip with the sash on. I mean, 10 out of 10. I adore Japan just because she takes these risks with this talent that she has. Laos came up. She was also quite good. Martinique, guys, what is that black thing underneath her swimsuit? It's so distracting, but she is stunning as always. Mexico is definitely bringing that Latina swimsuit flair as usual. Paraguay seemed like she was having a lot of fun. I love how she was singing the song along because it's such a catchy song. The Philippines, oh my goodness guys, she just has the most enchanting walk. Spain, just this contestant continues just to be always the cutest and delivering cuteness on stage. I love Spain for that. Tanzania came out, and guys, you know I'm just obsessed with her hair and how it moves when she moves. For Thailand, this girl, she is here to win. She has never been slacking, even for a second. UK came up, and you guys know that she was such a sentimental favorite of mine. She was so adorable. She's from a non-sash factor country, you know, and I was just rooting so hard for her. USA obviously had all of the trappings of a USA swim performance, including lots of chin pops, etc. With Venezuela, you guys know that Venezuelans can deliver a decent swim walk in their salib, and this was no different. Zambia came out, and this color of this swimsuit looked the best on her skin. It was so gorgeous, and she had lots of personality on stage. So the results for best in swimsuit came in, and it ended up being Thailand, which I thought was extremely well deserved. This girl literally ate swimsuit up every single time that she had to step out in a swimsuit. And then immediately we went to top 10, which was a bit jarring to me because it felt extremely fast after the swimsuit competition to just immediately go to top 10. I was thinking to myself, did the judges even have time to deliberate, or was the top 10 all predetermined? But anyway, for the top 10, the popular vote candidate was Colombia, and she was actually not originally in the top 22, as you can see, but the popular vote does get you automatic entry into the top 10. Then there was the Czech Republic, Mexico, and Venezuela. My favorite, Guatemala, came out in the top 10 as well, and I thought that that was very well deserved. Thailand, obviously, she is absolutely everything, and it's very well deserved. For the Philippines, I thought that it was obviously very well deserved as well, giving her track record. Then there was Tanzania, and I'm just like, she is so shocked that she got in, but girl, don't be shocked, you were amazing. Ghana was also in the top 10, which I was not surprised because I absolutely adore her. And then lastly, it was Spain, which is also a big sentimental favorite of mine. But sadly, the UK, Ecuador, and Martinique fell out at this point. And I was definitely so sad about the UK, because I did think that she was amazing. And at the end of the day, I did get 5 out of 10 of the top 10 correctly, but at least it included 4 out of 5 of my top 5, so I wasn't too depressed. Then there was a segment where the top 10 had to deliver speeches. Now, allegedly, Miss Grand International advocates against war and violence. They advocate for stopping war and violence indeed. And so it was up to the candidates to come up and deliver speeches advocating for this cause. Colombia came up. She struggled a lot. English is definitely not her first language, and she would have been better off with a translator. Czech Republic was better than Colombia, but there were elements and tones of insincerity in her voice. Ghana sang to absolute perfection. We are the world. And then she proceeded to deliver a boss level speech in English and some Thai. I mean, she just had such boss queen energy in this segment. Guatemala was really not bad, but definitely not better than Ghana. For Mexico, it seemed like she was speaking from the heart, and I did love her calm, feminine, commanding presence. Philippines was a little bit extra, but this is Miss Grand, so you know they might have been into that. She was raising her voice a lot. Spain kept it cute as usual, good but not extra memorable, unfortunately. Tanzania came out, and to me she is just captivating all around. I love how she really gets into how she grew up and her personal values when it comes to violence. Thailand definitely knew exactly what she wanted to say, and her delivery did sound the tiniest bit like she was reading, but it was very good nonetheless. Venezuela came out, and her speech was also perfectly adequate, but not the most impactful. So for me, I definitely have to say when it came to the Stop the War and Violence speeches, Ghana was by far the best for me. Then it was time for Christine's final walk as Miss Grand International 2024. Her reign did start in quite sad circumstances when Rachel Gupta from India resigned as Miss Grand International 2024 after she alleged that the organizers at Miss Grand International did not have her best interest at heart, essentially. And Christine's gown is just so gorgeous. She looks like a true angel. You can't help but get emotional when you look at her, and you can see how much this opportunity meant for her. Despite the circumstances of how this crown landed on her head, you can't help but be moved by her emotion. I love how she fully embraces the fact that she was the first runner-up first, and she doesn't dismiss the gravitas of that. I also thought it was interesting how she mentioned that she was unable to fly her family out from the Philippines to Thailand for the final evening. Surely the Miss Grand International organization could have helped her with that, assuming that finances were the issue here. It was so poignant at the end when she officially introduced herself as Miss Grand International 2024. That's a very powerful moment because that is what she is. Essentially, it doesn't matter if she started as the first runner-up. Two things can be true at once. Being Miss Grand International was very negative for Rachel, but for Christine, this was clearly a formative experience. Then it was time to hand out the Golden Grand Award, and this doesn't go to a contestant but to the best national director, essentially. And the Dominican Republic won this award, and this man in the weird sleeved suit is absolutely beautiful, I just have to say. I love the silliness of sashing and crowning the best national director. It's a lot of fun. For the evening gown competition, the stage is so beautiful. The pre-gown performance was so good. There were two baddies with complimentary voices on stage, and then another one on a unicorn in the air, as only Grand can, to be honest with you. It was like three goddesses together. The power, the gravitas, exceptional work to absolutely everyone involved. But for the gowns themselves, Colombia came out in this gorgeous gown. It would certainly match the Miss Grand crown. So stunning. Czech Republic was looking beautiful as well. I love the slow-mo effect that they were using with the cameras. It adds something special, definitely. Ghana, guys, I usually don't love feathers, but this, how unique. African elements and vibes all around. It truly set her apart. I adored this look. Guatemala came out and almost slipped, unfortunately. Her gown wasn't that impactful either, but she's still very pretty though. With Mexico, I wondered what the purpose was of dragging so much tulle around on stage that she's not even wearing. The Philippines, guys, a lot of feathers. That is a lot of feathers. I love the effect and how bright and eye-catching it is though. It definitely wins points from me for being orange, because you guys know I love orange nowadays. Spain looked extremely pretty. I love the different colored crystals used. It gives a nice three-dimensional effect. Tanzania came out and immediately I was like, no, what are these shoes that don't match your skin or elongate your legs or anything? I love her look otherwise. I think otherwise it's an amazing look. It's just those shoes. Thailand came out and guys, she was looking so grand. There was a lot going on this gown for sure, but it's all very angelic and beautiful. Venezuela came out looking like a classic Venezuelan beauty. You know, she had the cape, and the colors are the brand colors of Miss Grand International. No complaints for Venezuela. Best for me in evening gown, I definitely would have to say, was Ghana and the Philippines. Tanzania absolutely killed me with those shoes. But the actual best in evening gown award went to Mexico. The one dragging the tulle around, which was questionable for sure. So next up, the top 5 were announced, and Ghana was the first one in, which of course I felt like this was extremely well deserved, and I would have rioted in the streets if she did not make the top 5. Venezuela wasn't an unexpected candidate in the top 5. Thailand, I was very pleased because obviously I love her. Spain, I was so happy for her, and I don't actually think that she herself expected to get into the top 5. The Philippines, I felt like this was an amazing way to end off the top 5. She was in my top 5 as well, so I was very pleased with this. In fact, 3 out of 5 of my actual top 5 on my prediction got into the top 5, which I was very pleased about. Sadly, no Guatemala, which is interesting because a lot of people actually had Guatemala as their winner. And of course it was also mentioned that all of the rest of the top 10 must share the 5th runner-up title, which I think is a ridiculous thing that Miss Grand International does. It was also revealed that the host country for Miss Grand International next year would be India. India has just been doing such an amazing job when they've hosted other international pageants like Miss World, for example. I hope we see lots of Indian cultural elements in the show next year. For the top 5 Q&A, guys, I cannot. Like, what was this random question? The final question. And it's about scammers. So random, and they could all hear each other's question, meaning that the person who was first up to go and answer the question was at a major disadvantage to the person who was last to go, because ostensibly the person who is last to go has much more time to think and answer up for this question. And what it came down to is you had to like think up punishments for people who were scammers. You know, you had to talk about why scamming is bad and then what are we going to do about the scammers, you know what I mean? Anyway, so Ghana did her best with the random question at hand.
And through education, we can stop these actions.
Venezuela, same. She's very well spoken in this.
They have to return every money they take from others.
Thailand came out and said that scammers should receive the death penalty.
Scammer should be received the severe punishment, namely death.
Girl, get a grip. Get a grip. So much for stopping the war and violence.
Death.
Spain came out and, to be honest, she most certainly did not answer the question at hand and would have brought up mental health, but they could have asked her what her favorite color was and her answer would have incorporated mental health somehow. And interestingly, the Philippines was the last one to answer the question, so she had the longest time to think about a good answer. And she came up and she at least said that scammers should be behind bars in jail, which is far more reasonable than Thailand's proposal of death. So do you remember how I was talking about how the rest of the top 10 girlies who did not get into the top 5 all had to share the 5th runner-up title? Well, they actually had a crowning for them, which I think is such a fool's errand and so silly. But anyway, we finally got to the point here when it was time to get into the runners-up and the winner, which is very exciting. So the 4th runner-up ended up being Venezuela. The 3rd runner-up was Ghana, which I felt like was absolutely illegal. I cannot believe that Ghana got 3rd runner-up, and then Spain, who didn't even answer the question, got 2nd runner-up, which meant that Thailand and Philippines was actually the top 2, which is such a iconic top 2 because these 2 countries have been slaying in pageantry. I cannot overstate the absolute gravity of Thailand and Philippines as the top 2 in this particular pageant. It was so intense. Philippines is going for a back-to-back, right? Because the reigning Miss Grand International 2024 is also from the Philippines. And then Thailand, obviously, is trying to win on home soil, babes. But it ended up being that the first runner-up was Thailand, so the winner was the Philippines. I love this for the Philippines. Honestly, Emma is very deserving of the crown. She was my 3rd runner-up. But if I'm being so honest, I will forever mourn Faith Porter, representing Ghana, not getting this title. Because let's be so for real, Faith was just incredible. So yes guys, that was my thoughts on Miss Grand International 2025. A lot of exciting things happened in this year's competition. But I think what I do appreciate about Miss Grand International, obviously their stage production is top notch. But more than that, they also have a pretty concise schedule. They don't bring in a lot of weird things anymore like they used to. Of course, like they do have some weird titles that they give out, like best national director, things like that. It's a bit silly, and having the entirety of the top 10 now being the 5th runner-up, it's whack, to be honest with you. But besides that, I do like that they keep to a pretty concise schedule, and the pageant wasn't that long, it was 3 hours long. You know, nowadays I've been watching pageants 5 hours plus, my dear, and I'm into this shit, so I can't even imagine people who don't want to be there. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about everything that happened. I did definitely feel like there were some sketchy moments. For example, Spain getting second runner-up over Ghana. I wouldn't have minded Philippines and Thailand being over Ghana as the top two, just because I felt like they were pretty much all on par. But Spain being over Ghana when she didn't even answer the question, girl. Anyway, so many things, like for example, I don't feel like the judges had time to determine the top 10. I think that maybe the top 10 must have been predetermined then. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about all of this. It was a lot this year. I didn't expect to have my heartstrings pulled the way that they were with Christine's final walk, just because she hasn't really been Miss Grand International that long, but you can just tell that this thing really meant so much to her. And I think that her being from the Philippines definitely plays into this, because we all know that that's like the prime pageant capital of the world, you know. But anyway, it was just so interesting to watch Christine and how she was voicing herself, and I felt like she said everything that needed to be said. Anyway guys, thank you so much as always for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.